Welcome to You Make the Difference. I'm Wanda Scarborough. I have as my guest today Anitha Hatton, and Anitha is one of the 8 women who are participating in Circles of Troup County. Circles of Troup County is a new program in Troup County, and it addresses poverty and helps people come out of poverty. We're really excited about this new program. Anitha, tell us what attracted you to the Circles of Troup County program?
Well, I'm a woman that was not doing as well as I expected or well as I wanted to.
Yes.
And so when I saw the first article in the newspaper about Move the Mountain, I knew that there was a time for me and a place for me to change my destiny. So, as a matter of fact, I was the first applicant for the circles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I know that they were very excited about the applicants that they got. Mm-hmm. The applicants have skills.
We do.
They have education.
We do.
They're wonderful women.
We are.
Great personalities.
We do. We have.
Yeah, and it's been fun, hasn't it?
It has. It
now,
has.
This first session is to take you through a process of orientation and looking at different things in your life and setting goals and those kinds of things. Tell us what are some of the goals that you've set for your life?
Well, some of the goals I've set for my life is, first of all, is to get a great job with great hours and great pay.
Yes.
That's my first goal. One of my second goals is a little bit more timing. I want to own or run a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
Sort of like a transitional center that help women from off the street and from incarceration change their lives for the better.
Yes. Now, tell us a little bit about your life journey.
My life journey, I came here as a young person from New York. And it was a culture shock when I got here. The differences, even the language, the accents.
Yeah.
I've learned to love the Southern accent now. I came here, I finished school at Troup. I attended Tuskegee University. I then went on and had 3 children, unwed. And because of that, unbeknownst to me, that threw me into poverty. Then I started doing some things that wasn't quite right to try to get out of poverty. And I ended up making some mistakes, learning from the mistakes, and moving on.
Yes. So it is very difficult to have children and be a single mother, and to have 3 children with a single mother. I know to have 2 children and be in a home where there is a husband, sometimes that can be hard too. But to be out on your own and having to provide for 3 children, I really don't know how people do it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was very challenging. And even though I kept jobs, I was never able to keep up everything in the home.
Yes.
My utilities, the rent, child care. And child care is very expensive. It was expensive back then, and it still is very expensive. So because of all that, I just felt overwhelmed.
Yes.
And being overwhelmed took me down the wrong road.
Yes. So who kept your children for you?
Well, I kept them.
Okay.
I kept them. But in the times that I had to go off,
yes,
my mother was there. My mother would come right in and take care of them, and then I would get my children back. So they never hit the system. I kept them myself.
Okay. And so when there is a poverty situation, relationships are very important, aren't they?
Right.
And we've talked about that a little bit in Circles of Troup County. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, what we have is what we call reciprocity.
Okay.
And that means that you give me and I give you. Now, we're not talking about exchange of money or anything.
Right.
But I'll allow you to learn a little bit about my life and my background. And in return, you do the same for me.
Yes.
And I think it helps us stretch our perspective about different people when we learn that. Because everyone is not brought up the same. Everyone doesn't think the same. And that's one of the things about poverty. Poverty is just a mindset.
Yes.
So the first thing that we have to do is change our thinking, transform our mind, the renewing of our mind, our thinking process.
What's one thing that you've changed in your thinking since you started Circles?
Circles just gives me a great attachment to God. It's like I know now that I'm being placed in my destiny. One of the first things I've changed is knowing how someone else think.
Yes.
And knowing how someone else think about how I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I say certain things or I think a certain way, then I get a chance to analyze how someone else took that or how they
Yes.
think about that situation. And so then it gives me a different perspective. Do I want to keep how I'm thinking or do I want to adopt a new way?
Yes. And one of those ways I remember in the circle meetings that we talked about was when you're in poverty and you get your income tax check back.
Yes.
What happens then?
Well, I was saying, and I was just talking about that yesterday, when a person in poverty gets an income tax check, say it's $3,000 to $5,000. Most of the time, at some point, we're already behind in some bill payment.
Yes.
So that I remember last year with me, to give myself an example, I was behind in my rent. So when I got my check, I paid rent, then I caught up with my light bill, my utilities.
Yes.
And then I splurged because I felt that that was due to me because of all the anguish.
Yes. Yes.
You know, all the personal anguish that I had been through because of not having. So instead of thinking about saving or for a rainy day, I thought about enjoyment for just that time. And now with circles, they are teaching us to think about the next day.
Yes.
You know, that if I made it this far, then maybe I want to save this money for something bigger, not just to splurge on clothes or shoes or something frivolous.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of the statements I believe that you made about when you're in poverty, you don't think about saving for a rainy day.
Right, because every day is rainy.
Every day's a rainy day.
Every day is rainy. And I had to learn that also, and that's something that I had to teach because sometimes what would break the average person is our day-to-day living.
Yes.
Again, take me for example, is I don't have a job. So every day I get up thinking how this day is going to end. And whatever that day brings me, be it not good, I can't let it shake me because I'm so used to it.
Yes.
With someone who hasn't been in my situation, it might very well break them or cause some type of emotional hurt or pain. Well, with me, I'm used to it.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. It's just that that's the way it is when you have a mindset of poverty.
Yes.
You know, I get up thinking like, okay, how am I going to pay this? And if it doesn't pan out, oh well. I can't just let that break me, even though I'm very concerned about it.
Yes.
Where someone else that's not in poverty, they know how that is going to be paid, how that's going to be instructed, how that's going to pan out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I remember from being in circles is that people in poverty are very resourceful.
Very resourceful.
And it's kind of like they have to be creative. Mm-hmm. They have to make many decisions during the day. Mm-hmm. And so really some talented moving around of different things just to get by. And so if that mindset is changed and moved to a different level, you've got people who are very capable of solving problems, very capable of being creative.
Right.
And I remember us talking about, in the mindset of poverty, that when your car breaks down, who are you going to call?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's going to be somebody that you know, that lives down the street, and you've probably done something for them before, and so that relationship is very important.
Right.
That you treat people well.
Right.
You help people out.
Right.
And those kinds of things. Right. Where maybe somebody in the middle class, if their car breaks down on the side of the road, they're going to call the wrecker service.
Exactly.
And have it towed into the shop and have it fixed.
Right.
So the middle class may face some problems, but they generally have more resources available to them and those kinds of things.
Right.
Now, the purpose of circles is to surround people in poverty with people who are not in poverty.
Right.
And these people will be their friends.
Allies.
Yes, allies, but not mentors.
Right.
And the purpose of that is that they're not going to try and tell the people who are the circle leaders,
Right.
the people who are trying to come out of poverty, how to do things. They're going to be a good friend.
Right.
And through sharing of knowledge and maybe having some resources that aren't available to maybe the circle leader.
Right.
Maybe they have a friend that they can make a contact to.
Exactly.
Then that person will be able to begin to step up
Right.
into a different arena of problem solving
Good word.
and resources.
Right.
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 Okay, and I know you've made some friends already in circles because your personality's just big, isn't it?
Thank you. Yes, and I work on it because of my past, because of I've had some issues with my past. I had to reinvent myself.
Yes.
And I always call it my BB moment. And I get that from Reverend Greg Brown, where he tells me about the butterfly effect. I always say there was a part of me that I was like a worm. I was in darkness, and I enjoyed the darkness. I enjoyed being there. And then I had to go through a metamorphosis where I had to change my thinking, align myself with God's word, and become the person that God wanted me to be.
Yes.
Because before that, I thought I could handle everything myself. But the battle is not mine.
That's
the
right.
battle is the Lord's. And once I adopted that, knew that to be true, then everything else about me started flourishing.
Yes.
So I can bring my personality back out. I didn't have to worry about what people said about my past.
Yes.
Because for a long time that hindered me. I felt like a woman with a scarlet letter, that everyone knew about what I had gone through. And it's okay because now I can talk about it and hopefully help someone else come out of that.
Yes. And so you've made a couple of friends. One of them is Pastor Greg Brown.
That's right.
And Sherry Brown.
Of course.
And they recently made a contact for you, and you went on an interview.
I did.
And as a result of that interview, you felt like you could fly again.
I did.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, they made a contact for me at a local dealership here. And that's part of the resources and relationship part of Circles. And I was able to go in and I interviewed. And that just gave me the challenge that I needed to know that I could do that.
Yes.
To know that my life just didn't stop.
Yes.
Because for a minute I felt like my life was bland. It's like eating oatmeal without putting anything in the strawberries on top. Now I have the strawberries again.
Yes.
And whether it pans out for a job or not, it's just giving me the initiative that I know I can do it.
Yes.
Because someone, somewhere, is going to say, yeah, I want you, and we're going to be a good match.
Yes.
And so that's what it did for me. And just the fact that I appreciate someone working for me. Having that relationship that I can say, look, I have this need, and they go to their resources and they try to fill it.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good feeling, isn't it?
It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling. Just to know that I can call them up if something is not well and say, look, how you doing? And that's even with my own pastor, Pastor Kevin Jefferson.
Yes.
If I need something, I can just say, Pastor, give me a word.
Yes.
Just give me a word so that I can move on.
I was looking at an email that I got today from LaGrange College, and it was saying if you're unemployed, there are some things that you need to do. And one of them was to improve your skills, and you are doing that. Another is to volunteer, and you do that.
I do.
Another is to network, and you are a great networker.
Thank you.
And I'm forgetting what the last one is, but you do that too. And so, I just hope that maybe somebody might see you on this show.
Me too.
Yeah.
So if you need a great person, great customer service person, I'm Anita, I'm your girl.
Yeah.
Call me.
Yes, that's right. And one of the things that you also do is that you dress very nicely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you always look sharp.
Thank you. And that's part of when we was talking about being in poverty, being resourceful.
Yes.
You know, because I haven't bought anything for a long time, but I'm able to keep what I have well. And I try to be innovative when it comes to me dressing and maybe putting a scarf on this day or changing the scarves. So that's part of me just being a creative part, working with what I have.
Yes.
So,
and you know, that's one of the things that I've noticed is that if we're all uptown and those kinds of things, a lot of times it's very hard to identify somebody who's in poverty.
It is.
Because they are resourceful people.
Right.
And they do look sharp.
Right. And it's not a look to us. You know, I think that sometimes
Yes.
People mistake that we should have a certain look,
Uh-huh.
but there's no certain look.
Yes.
You know, we're not going to be people that look torn down. We're not people that are not educated.
Uh-huh.
We're not people that hadn't finished school. And I think, in fact, all the circle leaders, all the girls that are chosen, I think all of them have jobs with maybe one or two of us. All of us have some post-education
Yes.
from high school. So there's not a look that you're looking at.
Right.
Because in our lifetime, we've learned to work with certain things.
Yes.
Or work without certain things.
Yes.
So we're able to handle that. So there's not a certain look. You can't just say, oh, I'm looking at her and she looks like she doesn't have money. That might not be the case.
That's right. And you know, I remember that I did some home visits when I worked for the health department. And when you see people at the health department, they may be dressed well. They may actually have gotten a ride with someone who has a nice car.
Right.
But when you do a home visit, then you really see what's going on in their lives.
Exactly.
I remember going in. The house even looked okay on the outside. It was housing. It was a project housing. It looked fine on the outside. I went in and part of the floor was missing. And also, I sat down on the couch. And when I sat down on the couch went to the floor. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, how am I going to get up without this being embarrassing to the people that are there?
Right.
But I think I managed that. So that was, I mean, that's really good.
Right. And that's just an example of how that person who lived there was able to accept their standard of living.
Yes.
And how that someone who doesn't live there with a different mindset in a different place thought, wow.
Yeah.
You know, because this is something common to them.
Yes.
And to you, it was so uncommon.
Right.
So that lets you know that people in poverty, how we make do.
Yes.
Makeshift.
Yeah.
With something where you looked at it and it was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So that lets you know that we learn from each other.
That's right. But, you know, they're in it, and I mean, they're there, and so they have to adjust. And, you know, they probably would have liked to have had a new couch.
Of course.
And of course, the floor repaired.
Right.
But when you can't,
Right.
you just do the best you can.
That's true. That's true.
Now, in the Circles group, we start off one of the sessions by saying what is new and good in your life. And one of the reasons that we do that is because lots of times in poverty, there's so many things that aren't good.
Right.
There's so many things that are just weighing you down.
Right.
But to begin to hear and begin to focus on what is new and different in my life helps. So today, what is new and different in your life?
This is new and different.
Yeah.
The fact that some years back, I've always said that I wanted to be an advocate, a catalyst of change, someone that could speak out. And so just being on this show today, this is new and good.
Yeah.
You know, and for you, some person like you, to befriend me, that's good. Because I remember seeing you when I was not in a good place, and you would come and visit. And I would always say, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like the 10 lepers. I'm going to be that one person that come back. So just to be here, sitting here with you, it's better than good. It's like my pastor says, gooder than good.
Gooder than good.
It's gooder than good.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, and I always appreciate your friendship too.
Thank you.
I always have a good time when I'm with you.
Me too. Yay.
Yeah, yay, that's right. Is there something that you would like to say to encourage people today that are in poverty, that are watching you on the show?
I would love to say that sometimes we have to do like David said. We have to encourage ourselves. I think the first thing I would love to say is get into a Bible-based church. Accept Jesus as your Savior. Start getting you some confessions and say over your life. Try to join an organization like Circles where you can volunteer, or maybe another organization where you can volunteer and become a better person by not thinking so selfishly about yourself and your problems. But maybe if you reach out and help someone, your problems will diminish. They won't look so big. Because we also know that when David fought Goliath, he was a giant, but he knocked that giant down.
He did.
So giants do come down.
They do. Yeah, and people do come out of poverty, don't they?
We do come out of poverty.
And I'm encouraged that with Circles, that says that if we can affect 10% of the people in poverty, that begins to have that ripple effect, people begin to notice what you're doing that works.
That's right.
And they are inspired by that. And they say, well, I want to do that. I see Anitha doing that.
Right.
I like what she does, and I want to do it.
That's right.
Now, what would you like to tell people who are in the middle class?
I would like to tell people that's in the middle class to learn from us. Yes, we come from a different mindset. We come from a different place. But there's things to learn as we exchange our ideas. I think we are the most resourceful people. We are people that can take a licking and keep on ticking.
Yeah.
We are people that want to learn. Just don't give up on us or think that we're not people that don't want to learn. We have the ability to learn, and we want that. We want to embrace newness, something that's new, something that would take our lives on a different level. And think about becoming an ally with Circles. Think about giving something back to the community and to someone else's life. So into someone else's life.
That's right. That's good. And I know there is a whole different mindset for people who are wealthy also.
It is.
And so I have been saying that I would like to have some wealthy allies.
Me too.
And and we'll learn their thinking and how they solve problems, and they use the resources that they have. And so we're looking for those wealthy people who want to be our friends, aren't we?
We are. I thought about Donald Trump the other day. I said, I remember when he lost his income, all of it.
Yes.
But because of his mindset, he regained it back. And that's how I feel about myself. Maybe I've lost some things, but I have what it takes to get it back.
Yes.
And I won't stop until that happens.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know that that's God's destiny for me. He wouldn't have put me on this path.
Right.
Yeah.
And tell me how you got in church. Tell me because I know church is very important to you. What's your story about church?
Okay, my story about church is that, like I said, one time there was a time that I embraced darkness. And because I was a single parent, I started doing some things that were illegal.
Yeah.
I was determined that I was going to beat poverty. However, you can't beat something doing the wrong thing.
Right.
But at that time, I didn't think that way. I thought that if I can go out and do some slick stuff, that I would beat it. And so my first avenue that I really got a hold of church is in the Troup County Jail.
Yeah.
You know, I had to go to jail, and then that was the time that I had to sit down and listen. And I became remorseful. That was the first thing to change it on my heart, because for a first time I was like, this is just what I had to do.
Yes.
But then I learned that my heart started changing. I was remorseful. No, I didn't have to do that.
Yes.
I chose to do that. And then people like you would come in and minister and give us the word. And there were some days I didn't want to go, but I was led to go.
Yes.
Some days I would come in and I would still be angry, but I would listen. And as I listened, God started changing my heart, start renewing my mind. And then I grabbed hold to God.
Yes.
Because he had grabbed hold to me
Oh,
first.
yeah.
We always think that we grab hold to God, but actually he grabbed hold to us first.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful for that. And then I became grateful. You know, it took the selfishness out. I became a grateful person.
Uh-huh.
So then here I am. I'm grateful now, and I'm remorseful, and I wanted more. You know, so then I just start saying, I want more of you, less of me. Because I saw that everything I was doing was making mistakes. It wasn't bringing me to the place I wanted to be. So I just embraced God and embraced everything about him. And the smile came back on my face.
Yes.
You know, no longer was everything about me so downtrodden. You know, I started picking things up and knowing that he cares for me, so I could cast all my cares on him.
Yes.
So.
Now, you mentioned to me you went to a Catholic school.
I did.
Now, that was in New York, right?
That was in New York.
And so what grades were...
Oh, I stayed in Catholic school from like 1 to 5th grade.
1 to 5th grade, and then you moved here.
I moved here.
Yes. Now, when was it that you were at the Troup County Jail?
I was at the Troup County Jail, and I think in 2000.
So
yeah, it's been
12 years ago.
Yeah, 2005. I was in the Troup County Jail. 2005.
Yeah, 2005. So.
And in 2002. So.
Yeah. You've come a long way, haven't you?
I have.
Yes.
I have, through the grace of God.
Yes.
Nothing about me.
And I know that sometimes your pastor has given you responsibilities at the church, right?
He has. He has. So right now with bus ministry, I speak a lot in church about incarceration, because sometimes in church that's a little taboo. A lot of people don't want to talk about where they've been, how far they've come. So he's given me the opportunity to talk, and now it has opened up an avenue to say, look how far I've come.
Yes.
It's like the people in Moses' day, you know, let my people go. I was in a time that I was suffering and I didn't have to.
Okay.
So he's given me just the opportunity to talk out and write poetry, and I'm also in the ministry of the arts. So I get a chance to do some plays in the church now.
That is wonderful. Okay, well, we're going to wind it up.
Okay.
And I just appreciate you coming.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Congratulations for being in Circles of Troup County and being one of the first graduates.
And we graduate tomorrow night at 6:30.
I know.
Yes.
And you are making a difference.
Thank you.
And you will continue to make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Got a promise from heaven. It's a year of repleven.